Dr. Bridget Burns is in the midst of an illustrious career in higher ed. She's advised college presidents, she's led higher ed governance reform legislation, she's served on state education task forces, and received numerous gubernatorial appointments. Today, she leads a groundbreaking, or shall we say path-breaking, organization called the University Innovation Alliance. But her own path in education was challenging.
I'm actually Exhibit A, and many of the people I work with were Exhibit A of the kinds of students that America has been failing for a long time, and that our systems of our universities are not, and colleges are not set up for.
She's talking about students who are a lot like her. Students who are the first generation of their family to attend college, and students who are from low income families. A lot of these students are also students of color, and too many campus systems are not set up to support these students. Bridget knows that the stakes are high for anyone pursuing a college education from that background.
It literally is the difference between getting out of intergenerational poverty and not.
Bridget's own lackluster experience as a college undergrad crystallized for her a mission to improve the college experience and education outcomes for vulnerable students across the entire field of higher education.
And to do so by fundamentally changing the way higher ed institutions approach problem solving around student experience, namely through radical interinstitutional collaboration. That's what the University Innovation Alliance is all about.
We are not interested in posturing and preening, and that's generally where the conversation ends in higher ed, is a lot of, show pony, showing off. But when we get to the real substance of it, it's like, yeah, but how'd you actually do that? And we just need good ideas to not be a trade secret. So you've got to make it so that it's not just possible to talk about the hard stuff around change management and innovation, but it's actually the currency.
Welcome to PathBreakers, a show about what it takes to cut through the noise and the red tape and all of the other obstacles to progress. I'm Tracy Pearson, and I work on the communications team at the Kresge Foundation.
And I'm Jamie Bennett. I work at the intersections of arts, culture, and equitable community development. On each episode, we talk with a different pathbreaker who's forging a new way forward in their community.
Today, we're talking with Dr. Bridget Burns about what it takes to get a consortium of college presidents together, put the institutional competition aside, so that they can share their best ideas about the nitty-gritty of their most successful student support programs. Welcome to the PathBreakers podcast, Dr. Burns. We are so happy to have you join us today. So why don't we start with you introducing yourself, your name, your role, and your organization.
So my name is Bridget Burns, and I am the CEO of the University Innovation Alliance, which is a consortium of universities who have banded together to try and make it so that good ideas that serve students aren't treated like trade secrets, and we can actually team up to address some of the big challenges that hinder the experience of far too many low-income first generation and students of color. So yeah, that's what I do.
Awesome. So when you say a consortium of universities and colleges, what does that look like?
Well, so it started more than just over a decade ago, and it's just, at the end of the day, these are just people. These are just people working in big, large organizations in an industry that has been hyper competitive from day one. We compete them against each other on everything possible. And yet there are some things that they are struggling with that frankly are universal. And if you expect them to individually solve those problems, you're gonna be waiting a long time. And we also need them to team up and actually solve some big challenges facing us as a country. So this group of presidents were all originally former first generation low income and students of color. I started with 11 of them, and they just got into a room and they had a conversation that was very simple. And it was basically talking about the fact that we weren't producing enough college graduates to keep America on track for economic competitiveness. And we were doing a really bad job as a country when it came to serving low-income first gen and students of color. And it would be a huge waste of time, energy, and money if they continued to go it alone and, repeat experiments. And so, how do I do it? We create experiences where we help them suspend reality and pretend that they don't compete. And it's a matter of focusing on two things, which is the shared problems that they have And the big things they can only accomplish together. That's it. I don't talk about other stuff. I'm not interested in other stuff. I'm interested only in creating space where those are the two pillars that we focus our time together and make it really acceptable. And frankly, we flip the script a bit that the only way you get a microphone in a UIA event is if you're going to share a story from failure, sharing war stories of, oh my gosh, do not try and combine your data systems in the middle of changing your HR system. And let me tell you how bad that is. Because those things make it so that, oh my gosh, you don't have to keep repeating the mistakes of others. And, because all of that is costly. You have, thousands of universities and community colleges around the country who need to do a better job for students. We need them to perform better for our students. But it's actually, these are just human beings who are working in really busy, hard jobs. And every day right now is a slog. They are facing constant criticism, new cuts every day. The public is upset. It's just a really hard. And so think about when you need to punch above your weight and when you need to do awesome. Do you do really well when you feel like constant scarcity and constant, criticism and that there's no help coming? No, you do better when you actually can focus on, the small things you can actually work on together, when you can same team it and share practical advice. And frankly, we start there, but that quickly goes to innovation. It goes to AI-enabled chatbots that we've been using for more than 5 years now. Like everyone else, welcome to ChatGPT. But it turns out you can move a lot faster when you create this kind of a culture. And so we are focused on scaling innovation because one of the early conversations we had was people talking about, we have a center for this, or we have this experiment, or we've done this. And if we can get past that surface conversation and get real, then we can actually talk about the real challenges and build solutions that help them on things that if we don't do it together, it's never going to happen. So that's how we do it.
That's amazing. And Bridget, I want to take a step back for a second. I mean, you're Dr. Bridget Burns, you're leading the University Innovation Alliance. I'm assuming that you're just someone who's always loved school, always succeeded, just never wanted to leave. What was your own path to getting to UIA?
So adorable that you think that I love that. It must be, the business blazer.
It gives scholars.
Yes.
Right. So I grew up in poverty in rural Montana, family of 4 living on less than $20,000 a year. My dad was a farrier, which is like a horseshoer. And he went into work one day and a horse flipped over on him when I was 2 years old and he was paralyzed from the waist down. So tragedy happens all the time. People are resilient. My family basically had 100% unemployment my whole life. My mom stayed home to take care of my dad. And so, I didn't get a lot of good advice about how to navigate higher ed. I got nothing but bad advice, actually. My dad used to always just say that if I wanted to go to college, I should just do what my brother did and win a state championship in wrestling, which was like so helpful for a 13-year-old girl. And so like a lot of first gen and low income students, I followed, you get the bad advice, you find something in it to follow. For me, I thought if I worked really hard and won something, if I was great at something, I would get to go to college because I knew I was going to have to pay for it myself. And so I totally neglected my studies and focused exclusively on winning a state championship. I did in debate. So I'm not an unserious or unsmart person, but I barely eked out of high school with a 2.3 GPA because of that. And so I was left with the reality that it turns out, people aren't as interested in a mediocre student who can argue about it. So I didn't have a scholarship. I stumbled to a community college. And as soon as I got there, I discovered these people are all good people who want to help. But this place is not actually set up around the user. This is not set up for me as a student. Like, at no point does anyone coach me on how to be successful at college because we don't do that. You're just supposed to pick that up, I guess, from the water supply. I didn't know when to go to an advisor. I heard the word office hour and thought that meant people were doing office work, so I shouldn't bother them. I took really interesting classes and it was a transformative experience, but not a lot of it had to do with my program of study because we hand 18-year-olds a choose your own adventure map with no guidance. And it still worked out for me. It still was the most incredible transformative experience. It completely changed who I am. And I'm deeply passionate about everyone getting the kind of epiphanies and like light bulb awakening moments that I had from higher education. And it's why I literally every day I get to go to work and do a job that's amazing. I wouldn't be here without it, but it became very clear that nobody's setting these booby traps for students. Nobody's twisting their mustache in the ivory tower. It's actually really hard to help an institution improve. These are big bureaucracies. You want them to serve, thousands upon thousands of students. It's really difficult to drive change in an environment like that.
Yeah.
The world has changed. And so I, spent a few years working in a state where I just saw universities throwing elbows. We should have been the same team. Why we are serving the same state? How is this possible? Why can't we collaborate? And then I realized, because collaboration, frankly, is a terrible experience. It's a lot of extra work people throw on you that they expect of you. It's unpaid. And so I got to go, I was given an opportunity that led to the Alliance, which is I got to do an ACE fellowship, which is kind of like baby president school. And you shadow a president for a year. And I wanted to know if all this innovation hype out there was real. And I wanted to understand what was going on around the country. And so I shadowed ASU President Michael Crow. And I quickly learned it's real. The innovation work is legitimately different in certain environments. And I wanted to understand why innovation works in some places and why it wasn't scaling. And simultaneously, this idea for the Alliance had happened. These presidents had come up with this idea, and I was free labor because I was an ACE fellow. And so I jumped into it and have been here since the beginning.
That's amazing. And Michael Crow, I know Michael a little bit. He seems to be one of the few university presidents I've run across who understands that it's no longer 18th century Germany and that universities don't have to sort of operate in the same way. And what's interesting to me in this moment is we have some of those big long-term historic issues that were true when you were being a student, that were true for the generation before you, that are true today. And my hunch is that the past 6 months have maybe been one of the most difficult times to be a university in the United States.
100%.
When you sort of think about those big ongoing things and the immediate things that are coming up and changing every day, how are presidents balancing those while still trying to center the students and center the teaching and learning? How do you do those two things?
It's very difficult. It is the hardest job in America. These are huge organizations that are we cannot screw this up. We cannot afford to lose progress. These, like the life-changing experience I had and, millions of other people have had, where it's the trampoline upon which most of the good innovation that changes society and helps us evolve comes from. And yet at the end of the day, right now, it is under attack at a level that it has never been. Some of it was prior to this moment. There has been feedback that higher ed we should have been listening to, we should have been shifting, but it is the most precarious moment, I think, in the history of American higher education, no question. And we could lose all the progress. We could lose our leading edge as a country if we don't see the big picture here, which is if you want progress and innovation and change and creativity, and you want solutions that fundamentally change the lives of everyday people, that comes out of educating people and giving them opportunities so that they can build those solutions. And it comes out of universities. We are the laboratory. We are the spark. And right now, if you're a college president, you are in the trenches. You're head down, war tattered. It is so much harder than I thought I knew it. Like, I've been at this now for 11 years and a decade prior. And it's the hard, it really is, I help them collaborate, but right now I'm just trying to keep them in their jobs, because every time that you transition a president, you lose 5 to 7 years of progress at a university. Because think about it, like the whole team, when you lose, imagine yourself losing the big boss. That means that now the provost is going to leave. Now other vice presidents, now deans. Now all of a sudden it's destabilized. Anything you thought you had permission to do, now you don't know if you have permission to do it. I think it's either fire ice. You're either frozen and you can't move forward, or everything is on fire.
Jeez.
And so right now, I need them to survive this moment and navigate it. It is really difficult. But yeah, I think we're going to get through it. But yeah, they need buddies. And I don't know if you know that this is very unusual for them to have buddies, an environment in which they would get to have conversations about the real hard nuts and bolts of doing these jobs, because these jobs are really precarious. And most of the rooms they're in are massive, or they're on a stage.
Yeah.
And so they don't actually get to talk about the hard stuff anywhere else.
I can only imagine the amount of trust that is required to be the connective tissue between all of these individuals and professionals and their teams, and bringing them together.
It does take a lot of trust, and usually it has to be earned, right? Every time I get a new president, I'm just nobody, right? Like, who are you? I need to show up and solve a problem for them. Thankfully, the more that we've been established over time, the UIA has been known to actually do the real work. The more that they are aware that this is actually a very exclusive group, like we're kind of like the Ivy League of student success innovation. But if exclusivity served the purpose, like the future of our country, if we're exclusive in that you have to actually really mean it, that you care about low income students, and you're gonna actually like show it. You're gonna actually make hard decisions that are not popular in order to support improving outcomes for those students. And so if you're willing to do that, then those are our people.
Not elite for the sake of just being exclusive. And I think there are a lot of challenges right now, to Jamie's point, not higher education. So I'm curious to know, what are some of the challenges that you all are trying to sort of navigate within the context of UIA?
So, we're in an interesting inflection point. So the first decade of the UIA, President Obama announced our first goal on stage. We were gonna commit to graduating 68,000 more students than we were on track to, and so it was going to take us actually, think about the students who would have dropped out. We wanted to commit to 68,000 over 10 years. More of those would actually graduate. And in that time period, we actually hit 164,000. And 100% more graduates of color, 43% more low-income graduates. Nothing in American higher ed has ever accomplished anything like this. So we figured out how to do systemic change at scale.
Talk, Dr. Burns. That's right.
And so that's what I mean by like my form of elite. These people are like elbow grease. Like we are. We don't have time to play. We are very serious about this work. So you have the backdrop of UIA 1.0 is student success in more degrees. I think that in terms of projects that we're working on next, the two big challenges we're tackling right now are the moment a young person is looking at college and thinking about it. Right now, the way that experience is set up makes totally no sense. It makes zero sense that we ask you to pick a college not knowing anything about the outcomes of those institutions. We make this assumption that you're going to like go travel somewhere. No, most people actually pick a college near them. Right. So of the ones near me, who does the best job with a low income first generation student who's interested in possibly becoming an attorney? Who help make it make sense, help me feel like I understand what's actually, what I need to know. And then it's insane that we ask them to choose a major before they know anything about a career, right? We think that by listening to young students and students who are in their first year after being admitted, that we can actually build a fundamentally different experience that would be connected to career readiness, help them match make with the right major, reduce the number of major changes and excess credits, help them get through in 4 years, actually have a plan. So that's one place. And the other is that the classroom is where career readiness needs to be. That it's the one place all students go is the classroom. And so we want to actually be able to make that a reality for them. When I ask people what it was around their educational undergrad experience that set them up for their career, they talk about like, I was the president of a club, or I was the, head of my sorority, or I was the student newspaper, or I was in a lab and I was doing undergraduate research, or I was part of we did this, design competition as a team, and I did this. It's things that technically didn't happen in the classroom.
Right.
And I don't think people give higher ed credit for all of that stuff, right? And that is the stuff that is helping them post-college. That is going to set them up for success. But we don't give students, I think, good marching orders when they come in that you're going to go to class. That is awesome. And there's going to be incredible learning there. But you have to go out and actually maximize the value. Half of it is going to be what you do with this stuff out here, when you're going to do an internship, when you're going to be part of activities. You see those students who get through and at the end of their, when they're ready to graduate, and, if they didn't do those things, if they didn't actually maximize the experience, we do still have a backup plan for them. And that is called career services. It's an office that is only a backup plan. It is not actually the plan. The plan was the whole place. So it's a reframe, but it's a really big reframe, because I think people think career services is an insufficient answer to the question of jobs and career. And that's because it's the backup plan for in case you didn't maximize the experience.
I think I'm going to put my PR hat on. When you talk about the full experience and ensuring that students know that they need to have that full experience, I think that sometimes students get pushed to pick the major, go to class, get the good grades, and ignore all of these sort of auxiliary programs that they could really sort of lean into to help them figure out which path they want to go down. Like, don't forget all the little accoutrements to the recipe. For this to be a delicious experience, you need all these other little things that go into it.
Totally.
And so, yeah.
I mean, my everything that I do every day is directly related to what happened in my undergraduate experience, which is I was a competitive debater, so I have to come up with ideas quickly. I have to be able to defend a position quickly. I have to be able to research and analyze. But I also, a year and a half after I stepped foot onto Oregon State's campus, I was elected student body president. And a year and a half after that, I was appointed by the governor of Oregon to the State Board of Higher Education. I was a non-traditional student from out of state, low income family. Like, I didn't have any connections, right? That place changed my life overnight. And I was now in charge of a nonprofit with $1 million budget. And I was hiring and firing college presidents at 22 years old. Those are not things that happen inside the classroom.
Right.
Do I feel like that institution gets full credit for the transformative experience that I had? No. I think we think of college as you pay your tuition, you go to class, and you leave. And I think that there's so much more that people are getting out of this experience.
Love that. Bridget, as we were looking at the University Innovation Alliance, I'm a little bit fascinated by the Listening Lab. Will you sort of introduce our listeners to what is the Listening Lab? I want to get into that a little bit.
So I've shared how these are highly complex, bureaucratic, large organizations.
Right.
But in this case, I think of it like universities are kind of like a body. And I would go to institutions, and I would always ask the same question when I get on campus, and that is, where do you think students bring their problems? Where do problems go? Whose job is it to solve problems? And if the answer is everyone, then it's no one. And that's always the answer I get. Or I would hear people say, go to the help center. And I would go to the help center, and I would ask them, can you show me the list of the last 2 months worth of students' problems? And they would just tell me, oh, no, we don't keep a list. So think about that the one place that students are supposed to bring their problems, we don't keep a list. We just expect, because we're always responding in real time. We're always fighting the fight. And the other place I would hear was go to meet with your advisor if you're a student with a problem. And I would go to advisors and I would ask, do you feel like you get to solve problems for students? And they would say, no, my job is to help them change themselves and adapt to this institution. It's about how they need to shift, right? So now multiply that times over 10 years, now 19 institutions. it became very clear that if this is a body, where is the ear? That we're going to listen and understand what students are going through in real time to try and actually solve their problems. And we don't have it. Universities, every once in a while, will have a focus group, and that will, if you're in the room when the insights come, you're lucky. That's going to go sit on a dusty shelf somewhere with a strategic plan. Um, we don't actually feel like we can solve these problems because the politics on that one is going to be difficult. Boy, that's good. That's not something we can do right now. But students are experiencing these problems in real time.
Yeah.
I can't pay my rent. I cannot get into this class, and if I don't, I'm not going to graduate this year. All of these issues that students are experiencing, we need to listen to them and be able to change how we make decisions, so we are actually combating these challenges in real time. So that our campuses can actually navigate, right? So in COVID, students were dealing with in real time, like, I don't have access to a computer. I don't have internet at my house. We had to listen to them more. And so the listening lab is take that idea and put it on steroids. We think that empathy is the first step of design. You have to listen, and you have to truly be earnestly listening and understanding where they are, and do it consistently, not sporadically. And don't just listen to the student government students or the scholarship kids who get rolled out. I was one of those who bring me out to talk to a donor, and I'm going to say a nice thing. Yeah, no. And don't make students just come in and perform their trauma either, right? So we had to build a method by which you could consistently listen that honored their time. So it's compensated. It's regular, it's inclusive. We're bringing in all student voices and backgrounds. And then we're working on how you take all those insights and real time we're going to do a sprint, and we're going to solve this problem. We're going to try and actually shift how we make decisions about what we do and the changes that we're advancing. And so these institutions are basically, we now have a consistent practice of not just listening to students, but also systematically responding and trying to address their issues.
And is that something
That's what
that
the listening
lives
lab is.
within the specific universities, or UIA holds a listening lab that sort of covers a bunch of universities?
So the lab is central to the UIA, and what we do is we actually, we first had to prototype the solution.
Right.
So what would it look like if every university had consistent focus groups? What was the method? How do you make sure you actually recruit the right students, that you're not just getting the same voices, all that kind of stuff. So figured it out over the first phase of our work, and the Kresge Foundation has been so generous with this, the support of this. It's a strategy shift for the sector. And so now, now we actually run trainings. We teach module-based learning. People can get skilled up. We have held a national summit to train people at, many other universities. We're running like hundreds of focus groups at all time, constantly listening to students, and then synthesizing those insights and basically saying, hey, we have a problem over at this university. It's not your student, but we think it's relatable. So here's an example from the listening lab. A campus in an urban center, very relatable. This student was only getting text alerts about a crime. They were only ever getting notified because of reporting requirements that universities have to say, like, hey, if there's a crime that's happening on campus, right? Well, this student, that was all they ever heard was about bad things that were happening on campus. So they were afraid to come to campus because we had not realized that that's the only communication they're receiving is a text alert about a crime on a campus. And it's such a obvious, but when you're running a complex organization that is trying to change lives, you would totally miss that. And yet it's completely relatable that all students in the United States get those same kinds of texts, and we don't think, hey, that's actually kind of scary, and we're not contextualizing that, and we're also not even thinking about those students who've unsubscribed from everything else. That's a terrible message to get about your institution. So that's just one of the many ways that the lab has made it so that the other institutions can prevent this from happening on their campus.
Yeah. I want to talk to you a little bit about the amount of empathy that I feel like I'm hearing that goes into this work. The vulnerability, trust, empathy, and being open to sort of the big questions. These all sound like things that in prepping for this interview, you have had some experience with in sort of another area of your life, which is the improv theater. And so I wanted to ask you, are there any elements of that experience? And if you are open to sharing that with us, we'd love to hear it,
Oh,
that you sort of bring to your work at the UIA.
Yeah, so we first started doing this, we knew that we couldn't do this work the way everything else had ever been done in higher
Hmm.
ed. Just it wouldn't accomplish what we needed it to. And so I focused on getting inspiration from other places. So took improv. I tried to, we looked at Carnegie's improvement science work. We looked at the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. We looked at all these places, but I also, where are the cultures that you can make people really trust each other and do real work, create, create the conditions which people can actually lower their shoulders and feel like they can be them. They can actually share the hard thing. And improv is a fantastic place because experience and I think design for those kinds of experiences because the rules of improv they translate to the work that I do. So I used improv to initially to try and just simulate creativity and learn about it. Here, every one of our events, we start with yes and is the framework. We know that you do not get the best idea by yourself. You just don't. If you think that you are going to solve everything by yourself, you are wrong. So when someone is vulnerable enough to share a new baby idea, it's a baby. It's not ready to be debated. And so the way you meet them where they are is you say, I hear you, I see you, being generous because a new idea is generous because you could keep it to yourself. And yes, and I'm going to build on it. I'm going to meet you in that space of vulnerability. So yes, and is our first rule for everything we do. There are other rules of improv that really help. The others are focus on being interested, not interesting.
mm,
It's a subtle
yeah.
shift, but think about like right now, if I said, we're going to do an icebreaker and everyone's going to share a fun fact, immediately you stop listening. You turn your ears off. You literally go inside to figure out how you can be interesting. You don't pay attention to anything else, right? So that's kind of the thing is like if you focus on being interesting, you are not going to be a good thought partner. You are not going to be listening to people. You're going to be, you're going to just focus on yourself. So focus on being interested. Think about what are the questions that will actually, what do you want to know about this person? What do you think, who are they? Get into tapping into curiosity more. So the other rule of improv is it's about the team. It's not about me. And so, anyway, all of that has been super helpful for our work. And then years later, I also moved it on to stand-up comedy because I run a national nonprofit and not everybody wants to talk about low-income students. So I got to find a way to make sure that all of our work it can adapt to any audience. And, people need to laugh because this stuff can be heavy. And so it's all connected.
Love all of that. And one of our first conversations this series was with Dean Moji, who's working on the Merritt Grove campus in Detroit. And she has a background as a theater teacher. I'm also a failed stage manager. And so I think theater is excellent preparation for anything you're doing. Um, a lot of the work of the alliance is also about scaling solutions, right? We need to
Hmm.
understand the problems. We need to be honest about failure. We need to have empathy. We need to do deep listening. We need to prototype and collaborate. So, how do you approach scale? When there's a good idea that works at the University of Illinois, how should the president of ASU or Yale or Wayne State think about that idea? What should they copy? What should they learn from it? How do you think about scaling and doing something that actually is specific to other places, other campuses?
Our version of scale is an idea has worked in one place and we want to transport it to another state, another institution, and they are going to have their own narrative. They're going to have the story they tell themselves about what's possible. They're going to all be like, we've tried that, or we can't do that. That there's always a
Yeah.
story. Got to find out what it is, but that's one. Two is, how do you need to shimmy it in? You got to shave off some sides. You got to adapt it. Scale is not black and white. It is not cut and paste. It is it is riffing, it is inspiration, it is, it is got to be adapting. So it depends. So chatbots, for one, we've implemented AI-enabled chatbots. Some campuses focused on career services to apply that. Some it was the incoming student, and it was to make it so they could produce email. Some it's because they have students who want to go to talk to someone at 24 hours a day, and we can't keep offices open then.
Right.
How you, but the idea of an AI-enabled chatbot is the same thing. It's how are you going to adapt it to solve your problem? And that in that example, it was boiling it down to the most essential element, which is the question of where are the repetitive tasks? Where are there people getting asked repetitive questions? And that makes it so that those individuals are not able to do some higher order thinking. Let's focus on that, because we can probably use this AI-enabled chatbot to make it so that advisors are not answering the exact same question, so that we're having that 24-hour a day offering to students, so that career services is able to adapt. So yeah, in our case, it's the first year or so, I thought it needed to be all the same. No, and so it needs to be create environment where people can riff on each other, where they can ask the really dumb question. The dumb question's the right question. I think I'm doing the same thing as you, but I don't know, because this is not my job, right? Most of these people report up to me. So, and they all want to make me happy, and they all want to tell me that they're doing a great job, but I don't actually know if what we're doing is the best thing. That's what presidents experience. Everyone they interact with works for them. And so everyone's going to tell you you're doing a great job, but they actually want to make sure you're doing a great job. And so are we? Is this even what have we learned from other places? So that's what the Alliance does, is the peripheral vision. They don't have it. We have to fill it in, because they have such a massive job. And yeah.
Awesome. I just have one quick question, sort of a follow-up. Let's say a university president who's not currently a part of the UIA hears this. Is the organization open to new membership? How does that sort of work if a president wants to become involved?
So when we first announced publicly that what we wanted to do, a little over 10 years ago, I had 120 institutions reach out within 48 hours.
Okay.
So that was a problem, because we had to figure out how do we what?
Right.
The whole, and we learned over time that the intimacy of this network is really the value, is that it's the lubricant, because you're not gonna shout your vulnerable moments in a giant theater, right? And so I don't think we are not closed, but we don't, right now we're focused on trying to actually adapt to this moment.
Okay.
And launch this next chapter for institutions who are not in the UIA. One, we've always believed that our job is to act like a laboratory and build the solutions, prototype it, test it, scale it, and then create playbooks and accessible content that is actually useful for the listener or for the reader to actually be able to solve this problem on their campus. And so we believe in giving everything away. So we have the UIA Summit, which people can send their teams to, and we'll actually, help them connect with funders, build projects. We give them all the tools. We create our playbooks, are freely available. We are not trying to sell anything in the sector. We are trying to be Exhibit A of here's how you can actually do this, and you can actually, here are the tools you need to implement it back home. Okay. And so that's one, is that everything we've ever done is actually out there, and it's designed for the user, not for the writer.
Okay.
And we are open, but it's one per state. And I already have 19 states. So we've already, where each state there is a potential campus that we would add. And over time, we are adding them quietly. We just added Temple University. And I don't think this is known yet, but perhaps by the time this comes out, we're adding University of South Carolina.
Ooh, awesome.
Which is some breaking news. So, we're not closed, but it's hard. The room's already getting big, 19 institutions. And so I think we could grow to 30, but it has to go slow over time, because you have to get to know the other campus. You have to build trust. We have to teach them actually how to do the real work, and not, because in this sector, there are a lot of things that exist that people join, and it's a lot of talk. We are making a big announcement and then we don't do anything different. This is doing. It's harder, and so we're open, but we're also giving everything away so that others don't need to join the Alliance in order to change.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure that the website is in the show notes and people can take a look at all of that. We want to wrap up our time with our little tradition of doing a couple rapid fire questions to just get a different part of your brain. So, Bridget, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at keeping secrets?
Like 0 from my best friend, but it really depends on the juiciness of the secret and like what it's about, right? So if it's like super actually a legit secret, I have like, I mean, the nuclear codes are in here. I would say I would give myself a 6, just average it out.
Okay. Other than innovating together and PathBreakers, what's your favorite podcast?
I listen to Pivot.
Oh, I love Kara Swisher. You spend a lot of time in Portland, Oregon. What's the most stereotypically Portland thing you have ever done?
I ride a one wheel.
Go away, just stop.
You know those electronic devices you see some teen whiz past you and you're like, what is that? I ride one of those and I ride it to work actually. And of course I have a dog.
Everybody has a dog in Portland.
What's your song of the summer for 2025?
God, I keep having all these different TikTok songs that I don't even know what they are that are stuck in my head. But I would say that one that was just on America's Got Talent that I think is going to go viral.
Lots of movies about the college experience. Wondering if you have a favorite movie that's sort of a college theme / college experience.
Well, mine is Unlikely, which is the documentary that the Kresge Foundation actually supported and that covered our work. 10 out of 10 recommend.
Texting or talking?
It depends on who it's with, right? There's some people I don't want to text me, but I like to talk. I probably process through verbally, so I will talk.
What tabs are open on your computer right now?
Oh my God, like 100.
Who gets to play you in the movie about Dr. Bridget Burns?
So I've spent my whole life people telling me I look like Glenn Close, and so she is obviously older than me, but that would be the aspirational target, right?
I like Glenn Close. Go with Glenn Close. What's something that's given you hope this week so far, big or small?
I am really excited about the direction that we're moving in. Here, we can convene people around creating a future for each of our states that is just better and create the kinds of conversations and experiences where we will design the kind of future that we need.
The title of the podcast is PathBreakers. The theme of the annual report is PathBreakers. So I wanted to ask you, who is a pathbreaker in your life?
I'll go back to just acknowledging earlier that I wouldn't be in this position if it not to be for Michael Crow at Arizona State. He's someone who saw the potential of ASU when it was just people thought of it as a party school and ignored it. And now it's the most innovative university in higher education and, more than 100,000 students. And then, I run his friend group, essentially, and he made it so that this kind of work was normal. Other presidents are innovative and they have big ideas, but we often have existed in the structure of universities that are not set up for you to change them. Yeah. And so he broke the path and made it possible for other leaders to think differently about the job and to change their institution, and not in the ways that it always been, to not just focus on becoming more exclusive, but actually reframing the relationship between what universities are and what they can do for society. And so he's the pathbreaker for me.
I love that. Dr. Bridget Burns, Chief Executive Officer of the University Innovation Alliance, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time today to share some of the stuff that's happening. I know you've got a full day in Washington, D.C. ahead of you, so we'll let you get out of here and get off to doing that work. But just thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Burns.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Bridget Burns is the CEO of the UIA, the University Innovation Alliance, a multi-campus laboratory for student success innovation.
We've put the links to the UIA, as well as the documentary that Bridget was featured in our show notes.
PathBreakers is produced by the Kresge Foundation, which was founded in 1924 with a mission to promote human progress. Today, Kresge works to expand equity and opportunity in America's cities.
Read the stories of all of this season's Pathbreakers and learn about our grant-making and social investing work in Detroit, Memphis, New Orleans, Fresno, and cities across the U.S. at kresge.org. To hear more stories from the PathBreakers, be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts.
Our producers are Juliet Heinley and Zach Rosen. Managing editor is Krista Yankee. Our show art is by Rochelle Baker and creative direction by Alejandro Herrera.
Special thank you to my colleagues on the education program for lifting up Dr. Burns and speaking her name as a truly phenomenal pathbreaker. We'll talk to you all next week.